Good day, class. We continue today on our continuous writing, essay writing that we started off on. And today we're moving on to narrative essay. Now that word narrative, did not just come on its own. It stems up. It's from a base word, narrate. And everybody knows to narrate. Oh, what does it mean to narrate? To tell a story, to tell somebody. When you're telling somebody something about what happened, an event, maybe the day you spent, at a friend's house, and you're trying to get it known to somebody else. So you're actually telling a story. That's what you're saying. So narrative essay, therefore, is the one in which a story is told. So if you're telling a story, it is different from the way we chat about, oh, do you know when I went to this person's house yesterday? Do you know what? It's different from that. There are some things you need to take note of. There are some things that are very, very important that everyone who needs to write a good story must know about. The first one I have here is that you must ensure that you understand what the question is asking you to do. Because when you want to tell a story, right now it's different from the one that you know about. It's different from the one that you just come across and you're trying to relate to people. It's different, quite different from that. What you're doing here is that you're answering a question. You are answering a question, and so you have to be sure that you understand what that question is saying so that you don't give A for B. That is one. Then another thing you need to know is that you must remember that your story can be fictional and it can be non-fictional. Somebody may want to ask me, what do we mean by fictional? What do we mean by non-fictional? When it is fictional, it is a make-up story. Imaginary. It really didn't happen. It wasn't like you experienced it or you heard it from someone. It's just from your creativity. It's just from, you're like, okay, what if it happens this way? What if it happens this way? What if this happened? That's what you're doing. Then when it is non-fictional, it is real. It actually happened. So you can go in between the two. And even in your writing, you can choose to pick something that had happened. Okay, now you want to add your own creativity. You want to put in, oh, what if that thing that happened, what if it wasn't like that and it goes this way? That would make it a perfect job. Then another thing you must know is that to write a story, especially the one that is answering a question, a particular question you're given, then your imagination, your sense of creativity must be very sharp so that you're building up something really nice. You're building up a story that is very, very interesting. Okay? Very interesting, and it's very fast and in sequence. You're building it up very fast. You have limited time. If you're writing an examination, you have maybe 45 to answer that part of the question, and you have a lot of things to do in it. So that is why you have to be, if you're not fast enough, if you know you're not fast enough, then maybe you don't go for storytelling. Then your vocabulary. Your vocabulary must be rich enough to enable you to paint clear pictures that would make your story very interesting. Your vocabulary, we said the other time that in essay, you must have very rich vocabulary. It's like you have a dictionary of your own. You have different words to use for different situations, different registers. You don't just give one for the other. So that is what you're doing here. That is where this one will come to play. So those are the major things you really have to bear in mind when you want to write a narrative essay. Very, very important. Yeah. There are a few things that are peculiar to narrative essay. Unlike every other essay writing, letter writing, exposition, and all that. Now, the first thing, which is the feature of a narrative essay writing is, since it is obvious that you're telling a story and you're telling the story of past events, then your tense should be in the past, except where you use a dialogue. And dialogue are used, are used in narrative essay or in your writing generally when you want to bring to life your character. We'll get there. When you want to bring alive your character, you want to make your reader, your examiner know that, yes, I really know what I'm saying about this. This happened. And so two people came together and they were discussing. It could even be you, if you're involved in the story. It could be you and somebody else. So that way, depending on what you deem fit, as what you want to present that person to be saying, or those people to be saying, so that would inform what tense your dialogue will take. So now, when you use dialogue, that's the second one. When you use dialogue, your tense can be in the present. You can use the present tense. That's what we're saying here. Then your story must have a title, or what you call the heading. This title must be eye-catching. Because if you want somebody to read, like if you want me to read your write-up, for instance, if I pick anything and I write the title is so dull, you're like, I don't know. Sometimes you might have substance in that write-up, but then because the title doesn't really fascinate, it's not eye-catching, it doesn't really sound interesting, so somebody might not want to read it. It's just like when you have names of schools. Sometimes it is the name of a particular school that make people to go there. Let me see what obtains here. You just say somewhere Playworks. They're like, oh, what kind of name is this? I need to go there. I need to see what's happening. Or you just see Rosebird. You're like, oh, Rose. Maybe you're somebody who likes it. Or you just say, so things like that are some of the things that entail you to a particular place, a particular write-up. So if your write-up is eye-catching enough, as you just give it one title that's like, wow, everybody's like, I want to read it. Even sometimes when it doesn't have substance in it, you will read it. But because you have something you want your examiner to read, you want your examiner to really fall in love with, then you want to give it an eye-catching heading that would help the person to read. And that eventually might suspend the person's interest. Even when the person looks like, oh, I'm tired. No, I have to finish this. So that is there. The next one, probably the last one here, is the adverbial linkers. You've been taught that when you're writing letters, you link them. Like you use words like therefore, furthermore, nonetheless, in addition to. Now, these words are good. Yeah, we teach that you should use them. Very good. But in narrative essay writing, you don't really use these ones so well. You don't use them too well. Not as you use them in other words. You just link your paragraph up with other words, with other expressions. Apart from that, I'm going to read out something to us later, so that we would know what I mean by that. All those ones will show us what I mean by you don't use much of adverbial linkers, because it makes your write up so heavy and so dense that like I don't know if I should still continue to write. So that is the major and the basic features. Those are the basic features of narrative essay. Now, when you start your narration, you can do it in 3 different ways. As in, you can narrate in 3 different ways. You can narrate them at 3 different angles or 3 different levels. The first one is you can start from the beginning. Now, this is it. Let's pick a question. Write about the day I will never forget, for instance, or my best day ever. Now, you can start from the way it started. Maybe when you woke up, and you go on in sequence like that. I woke up at exactly this so time, and I did this, I did that, and I stepped out to do this, and that. You can go on like that. So when I got out, I boarded a vehicle at the park, I did this. You can go on, but it has to be you go on in sequence like that. What happened first? What happened next? What happened next? What happened next? Until the end of the day. And while you're writing on, you want to make us know that indeed it was the best day ever. And obviously, the things that happened that day would inform the reader that, yeah, that is, it must be the best day. Now, if it is the best day and you're saying something negative, then it's probably not the best day. If you have the day I will never forget, yeah, that could be bad, it could be good. But if it is the best day, then it must be good. So you follow that trend. That is one way you can write it. You go on and on and on. And in the end, in your conclusion, you want to do the final analysis of the day, of what happened that day. That is what you're doing. Now, and I think this is probably the easiest way to start. If you're a starter or you're writing, fine. You want to make sure that your examiners get what you're doing and they are happy about it. You want to be stylish, fine. But if you're beginning and you don't want to be clumsy, you don't want to get clumsy, I mean, dilly dallying, going here and there, then just use this type. Use this way. That is about the best way. You just go on. It happens this way, it happens that way, it happens that. Remember, you're telling a story. It's easier for you to remember like that. It's easier for you to remember. Yes, that is one way. But if you really know that I know I'm capable, I write stories well, or I know how to write story, I know how to paint a clear picture of anything that happens, then you can use the second one. You can start from the climax. Maybe you said the middle now. The climax, and that is the height of the problem in your essay. We will get there shortly, because you would have like, oh, are we talking about problem now? Yes, the height of the problem in your essay. So you can start from there. Maybe maybe no, God forbid, we're not saying you have accident. Maybe you just woke up in an hospital bed, and you're wondering what you were doing there. Your legs hung up, your hands put apart, and so you're wondering what you were doing there, and then it got dawned on you that, oh, this must have happened. Then you go back. That is the way you will start from that point. You will tell your reader what happened at that point. Maybe doctors were around you. They were trying to be sure you're not dead. They're trying to be sure you're resuscitated and all that. So you look at people, and you saw your mom, you saw your dad, or you saw friends. Maybe it happened, you were going back home from school. You're going back home from school, and it just happened. So the people you have there were your friends. People you had there were your friends, and so you just look at the faces you knew with very few, maybe two friends, and you're like, what am I doing here? Then you go back to the beginning. So that's another way to start. You go back to the beginning, then you now narrate what happened, how it went on. Maybe the driver was, you decided to go home from school, and you got to the park. Maybe a spirit had first told you, don't join this vehicle, and you're like, nothing would happen, it's fine. And you went ahead and you joined, and blah, 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 everything that happens all along and along until the accident, and you became unconscious until you got to the hospital. Then you finish it afterwards. So if you're smart, as in you've been writing, or you've been doing it before, you can use that. It's very, very good. In fact, it brings some suspense that everybody wants to know. They will stay glued. Now I want to finish what this child has to write. So that's it. Then the last one here is that you can even decide to start from the end. This one, you have to be very, 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 as in very experienced in writing stories. Do you know that some of us, when we tell stories, you know if you can write it well. I'm not saying writing and telling are the same thing now. You may be able to just say it. You may be able to say it, and because somebody is listening, they will still bear you. When you make mistakes, they will bear you because they know you would correct it along the line. All that. They need any dexterity. They don't need you to be perfect. So they just need you to say the story you want to listen. Some of us, when we watch films, the way we narrate the films we watch to people, in fact, that person does not need to watch it any longer. because you would say it from the beginning. When there is a suspect, when there is a flashback, you remember to put the flashback. When it was that the person said a different thing from what they were used to before, you remember every single thing. Now, people like that might be very good narrative essay writers. Very, very good ones. So you can start from there, from the end, as in the resolution, that is the anticlimax. The resolution, when everything was resolved. Okay? Everything was already resolved, and so you now, from there, you pick it to, when did it even start? How did it start? Then you go on and on and on until, now, you have done the end of it. Then you will not write that anticlimax again. You just put your own conclusion. So that is where the trick comes in. Very, very tricky. So maybe you've forgotten you were writing, and now you're forgetting that you had written the end of it. Now you go back to the end again, it becomes boring. So that is why I advise students who write narrative essay to start from where it begins, then you build it on and on and on until the end of it. Very simple like that. If you use dialogue, you use figurative expressions and all that, no matter the level with which you attack it, you tackle it, you would have written a very good story. Narrative essay writing is not what teachers generally would advise students to write, because it takes a whole lot. It's a whole lot. So it takes somebody who is really thinking, who is really very, very creative, and the creative ability is very fast, because you have a limited time that can do that. So if you're sure you want to do it, it is a story I want to tell. Because some of you will be writers, you will be authors very soon, and there are storybooks you write. You want to become the next Chimamanda Adichie, or you want to become the next Olaritimi, you want to become a very good writer. Yes, you can start from here, but you have to bear all of this in mind. When you're starting your essay, your narrative essay, the first thing, like we said the other time, the first thing you do is to brainstorm. And what do you think you're doing when you're brainstorming? You're thinking. You're trying to create the story you want to tell concerning the question you have. The limitation you have here now is that you have a question. You're not just telling your own story. It wasn't just a film you watch that you're telling somebody else. You're narrating to somebody else. You have a question. We'll see some of them very soon. You have a question that you actually have to answer, to write a story to answer. So that is where the limitation is. So you think of a very good title. Like we said before, that you must have an eye-catching title. Think of a very good title. Now, it might be, to some people, they just pick the title from their question. Well, that's good, but it doesn't really show creativity. It doesn't show creativity. Like now, if you have the day I will never forget as your question, write a story to tell your reader about the day you will never forget. Like the day I will never forget. The person will know that, this person is not, that is not eye-catching. But let's think of other topics, other titles that you can give it. Now, what you're doing is, if it is the day you will never forget, what you can start with, like, what a day. That could be your title. And another title could be, it was indeed a day. That's another title. Another title could be, I wish that day never was or never came. Those are titles that would like, so what happened that day? Whoever is reading will want to, what happened that day? That this person is like, this day shouldn't have come. Titles like that would catch the attention and will sustain the attention of your reader. Then, in your brainstorming, you have thought about a good heading. Now, you're thinking about what point would I be writing about. Now, if it is a day you would never forget, it could be a memorable day. It could be a very good day, and it could be a very bad day, and that you never even want to remember. Now, you want to, which one would I be able to write well on? maybe it's the very good day. You're a very hilarious person, so you want to write about a very good day. So you're sitting down, you're thinking, now what can I write? You're looking at it. It doesn't have to be anything that has happened before. It doesn't have to. That's why imagination comes in. That's why fiction comes in. It doesn't have to be what had happened. It could just be something you're thinking. If you daydream a lot, then you'll be able to write good stories. Yes, if you daydream. Some of us were thinking, oh, I will go to, I will do so well, and I will go to, my dad will take me out. My dad will take me on a tour. My dad will take me on a tour to the US, to Dubai. And so that could be, you could just pick it from there. Or maybe the day you won a scholarship, or the day you were celebrated in school, so you're thinking of something positive. But if actually you don't have something positive, you have something negative, good again. It's equally good. Now, you want to start talking about you wish that day never came. You wish because of something that happened. I have a story like that. I'm going to read the beginning up until the part of the middle so that you would know what we're saying. We're actually talking about when we're talking about brainstorming, and when we're talking about narrative essay. So you jot those points, you jot them down one by one. Now you want to say, okay, how did the day begin? Now you have decided on what level to write from. Maybe you want to start from the beginning, or you want to start from the end. And of course, that you're starting from the beginning does not say that you cannot refer to something that had happened before, even before then, like a flashback. It doesn't say you will not talk about some things that you're thinking in the future. No, that doesn't say you wouldn't talk about that. It doesn't say, oh, you have to go like a robot. No, that's not what it means. Okay? Yeah, but at least you're making it sequential. You're getting the attention of whoever is reading that, okay, this is when this happened, the next thing that happened was that, the next thing that happened was that, the next thing that happened was that, until the end. While you are writing on that, something happened. Maybe you just remember that, and somebody helped in the situation. So you want to refer to that person. So that it doesn't make, it's not dogmatic, it's not a dogmatic thing. So you jot them down. I want to say this one helped. I want to say this happened. I want to say this happened. I want to say that happened. So when it's kind of a bit difficult because I can't tell what an individual writer would want to put down. I can't tell. So we're just saying it from this angle so that whatever you want to do, you will be able to put them down on your own, and you would know what you're brainstorming on. So why you're brainstorming is simply so you would know if you have enough points to write, or you should switch over to a different question entirely. If you have enough points, good. You just write on and you're done. But if you don't, then you know you will need to, you still need to maybe choose another question so that it can be fine with you. So that is that. The next thing you must have in your narration is that, and this is why it is peculiar, like I told you the other time, that it is peculiar. This is a very peculiar kind of essay. You must have, after your title, you must have an introduction. And the introduction must be interesting. You must have an introduction. Okay? You must have a body. And it is in the body. The introduction, most of the time, is just a paragraph. It's a paragraph. Remember, in your paragraphing, you are like having a theme for that paragraph. And it is that theme for the paragraph that every other sentence you have in that paragraph is explaining. Simple. The highest you can have in a paragraph is maybe 2 short ideas that are related. That's the most you can have. 2 short ideas that are related. So you can have your body in 4 paragraphs. And by, at the end of the 4th paragraph, you would have said virtually everything you want to say, every story you want to tell. Then you just have your conclusion, and that's the final thing. If it wasn't something that happened to you, imagine if you're narrating the event and road traffic accident, for instance. You're narrating that. Do you know what you're doing? You're saying the things that happen to, as an eyewitness right now, you're saying the things that happen to people. Okay, so your final conclusion would be that maybe in your own view, you think that shouldn't have happened. The accident could have been avoided. And so you want to tell your reader that if, I am of the opinion that the other accident could have well been avoided if the driver was maybe was a bit more careful, or hadn't drunk before he took off to drive, or had been careful enough to obey the traffic rules and signs. That's a kind of final conclusion. You're concluding that way. That's your own personal conclusion. And that's probably what actually happened. And that might not be. So that's what we're talking about, the final conclusion. Now, it is a story. It could be real or imaginary. So there must be a problem. So do you see where the challenge is now? Because you're creating a problem. Whether it is a real story, no matter what happened in that real story, you must be able to create a problem. It could start fine, and it could even start bad. So you're creating it, the problem has begun from the beginning. So you're creating that problem. You create that as the problem, as it was going, it will get to a particular height. And that will be the climax. Like when I read Bezos and the sister, that Bezos is a very troublesome character. Very troublesome character. She was always creating problem. The day will start so fine. And it could be a problem with a dad, it could be a problem with the sister. She'll create a problem, and she will continue to create a problem. She'll be piling the problem up until it gets to very the peak. And after the peak, of course, it starts coming down. So that is where the resolution comes in, and that is where you call the peak is where you call the climax. Some people will say it's the middle. Well, I take it for a little above the middle. So then after the climax, then the anticlimax, the resolution. The resolution, whether good or bad. If what you have, the picture you have painted, if it is, let's say if it's a comedy, for instance, if it's a happy ending, then you want to say the resolution will be, and they live together ever after. That's what we see, or that's what we watch in films that are comedy. And if it's a tragedy, you say, and they all lost their lives, and nobody was to, maybe they all lost their life, and nobody was to bury them, and all that. So that could be it. So that is the anticlimax, and that is the where your conclusion stems from. Just make a final conclusion. Like I said, your conclusion is what your feelings. That is your final analysis of what you have. Yes, thank you so very much for asking that question. Yes, I know I have already planned that we are going to do some things about questions. We were saying what are the practical questions that we could have where we tell stories. So I have come up with these 4. This number 1 looks kind of elementary, but whatever story you will write there can be used for any other question that could be related to it. So don't look down on it. It says the day I will never forget. You'll be writing it since maybe even elementary school. You'll be writing about that. You'll be writing that. The day I will never forget. It was the day my mommy gave me, So, but then what you wrote then would automatically be different from what you would have here. Now, take for instance, you have that question, the day I will never forget. What do you do first? Sit back. Look at that question. The day I will never forget. I've said this before. You could give it any of those titles that I said before. But if you're not sitting down to brainstorm, to think, you just go, the day I will never forget, and you start writing on the day I will never forget. That's what the majority would write. But somebody who has taken their time to sit, creatively think, and bring about this a different title for this question, I'm sure, it won't go unrewarded. So that is that. Now, the day I will never forget. You want to go the normal way, the normal sequential way in the what happened first, what happened next, and all that. The day I will never forget. Now, you could just start with, I had always wished that the day never came. But it did. Well, it happened this way. I got up that morning. I felt like I shouldn't even get up from bed. I felt so weak. I didn't know it was a signal. I didn't know it has anything to do with what would happen in the day. And so you go on. So I quickly went on my knees, said a few words of prayer, and went out of my room, went to the bathroom. I didn't even make myself anything to eat. And you keep going on and on like that. So what you're trying to say is that you would have put everything, you would have jotted everything down while you're brainstorming. So yes, so I decided to travel home that day, being low on cash. So I just decided, let me just go. And I don't want to spend the little that was on me so that I won't be stranded with the public buses within Lagos. So I got to the park and we took off. There was a fight before we took off. Somebody wanted to board the bus, and things like that. Just create, because you are creative. Those are the things that happen. So what you are trying to tell us is that somebody wanted to take that position, but you don't know what came over. You just fought the person and you chased the person down until the person had to leave and join another vehicle because you were claiming your right. You got there first, and so you were supposed to go first. If you had known, you may keep referring to if you had known, you wouldn't have, you would have let that person go. And so you went. You haven't gone far. Something happened, the bus jerked. And we're like, driver, what's happening to this bus? No problem, it is just, are you sure there is enough fuel? Yes, everything is perfect and under control and all that. So eventually, what would happen is that, what was that? The driver didn't probably obey the rules, or was not careful enough, or had drunk, or had done a few things so that had caused the accident. Eventually, when you woke up, you opened your eyes and you find out that you were in the hospital. And for how long, you don't know, until you just looked around and you saw your mom, your dad, a few friends, and you were like, what am I doing here? Your legs tied up, so your mom screamed and said, thank you, Jesus, and all that. So you were not told, you were like, okay. So that was how you were there and there and there. So finally, you're like, if you had known, you wouldn't have. If you had known, you wouldn't have. If you had known, you wouldn't have. And if the driver had done this, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But remember, you are writing at least 450 words long. So you have to be very, very creative. There are flashbacks you will put in. There are future things you will put in. There are some things that you will put in that you don't do naturally. Like you don't fight people, but that day you just had to fight. You don't know why. All those things would now become the signals that were telling you that you probably wouldn't have boarded that vehicle. And so eventually you will have a very good conclusion. And your tenses in the past, remember, except where you're bringing in dialogue, okay? And good use of, what is it called? Figurative expressions. You could even start with one. You could start with one. Like if it is a very bad day, like the one we just talked about, you could say, well, there is an adage goes that had I known never begins a matter, it always ends it. That's a saying. It could be Yoruba, it could be anything, but that's what happens. So you put that in quotes, then you continue. Then as you go on, you keep using it. Like at some point you could bring in, yes, the dog that would get lost eventually would never listen to the hunter's whistle. All those ones will come in. Another thing could be whatever has been destined to happen to you would not happen to somebody else. So all those ones will enrich your writing and would make it very lovely and interesting to read too. And you will sustain the interest of your readers. Whether it is your examiner who is marking it, which is the most, who is the most important person, and other people that could pick it to read subsequently. That's very good. Okay, we have said that we write narrative essay in the past, except we have dialogue, and two people coming together to talk within the context of our writing, or except you have a quote, an expression that belongs to somebody else that you want to put in quotes. Yes, of course, quotable quotes, especially facts that don't change. They always come in the present tense, so don't forget that. The second question I have here, which is one of the very typical WAEC question or NECO question, O-level question generally, is write a story that ends with a saying, so you see, it doesn't pay to be a liar. Obviously, you know that here, you'll be talking about somebody who had lied, who shouldn't have lied, some things that maybe had made an habit of lying. So you want to put that down. And what you're doing is, you're either looking at maybe people around you, or maybe even your own character. You want to bring it, and you want people to know that, yeah, you sometimes tell lies, and it doesn't pay. Imagine somebody who decided that, oh, okay, yes, we have been working, and I'm so tired, but we don't have anything to eat. We are approaching a place, and this way, the way I look at this place looks like a Muslim place, and we are Christians. Okay, no problem. I'm going to change my name so that when we get there, they will give us food. They would accommodate us. The other person said, I'm not going to change my name. Whatever happens should happen. And whatever would happen should happen. And so they got there. The first person said, what's your name? Said, I'm Muhammad Musa. The second person, I'm Josiah John. Said, okay, thank God. All right, please bring food for Josiah John, because Musa should know that this is Ramadan season. Do you see what has happened? What has happened to that person? The lie had killed, and they were already exhausted, as in they don't have any strength left in them. So you see now? So it doesn't pay to be a liar. Now another question you could have is, write a story, real or imaginary, to illustrate this saying, where there is a will, there is a way. Now it's going to be a very lovely one. You're going to paint a picture of somebody who never gives up. It's somebody who never gives up. And so you're going to tell us what happened to the person, whatever happens to the person could go blind, the person could go lame, but the person still made sure they achieved that they wanted to achieve. So that is it, because the person had the will. The person feels like, okay, it is only myself that can stop me. If I don't stop myself, nobody else can. Then they strive and strive and strive. So, their striving now yielded the result. Though they have been maimed, they have been battered, they've been shattered, but they got to their destination because they had that strong will. They had that obstinate spirit that this had to happen, and it actually happened. Yes, another one, and maybe the last one we discuss here says, write a story that ends with, look before you leap. This could fine. In fact, this will be a very timely one if you are to answer that. It'll be a very timely one. In this years and age where you have youths wanting to get rich, wanting to ride on limousine at the age of 16, 17, or youth wanting to become a multi-billionaire at the age of before they are 20, and so they go into so many different things. So you could have so many things to back this up, so many different stories. And the good thing about narrative story is that you could put 2-3 stories together in one. And as long as you are able to do it with dexterity, with mastery, you will do it so well, so perfectly that in fact, it could be a story somebody had heard before. They're like, but I've not heard this before. You just get at them at one level or the other. And before you know it, you have written something very laudable, very plausible, very interesting that people will want to read. So the last thing I want to do here is that I want us to listen to the beginning and part of the middle of this story. And I titled the story, What a Day. What a day. I didn't go too far, but you just listen and you get something out of it. What a day. No, I took it from the first question there, the day I will never forget. So I decided to choose what a day. Now, this is it. I got up on a bright Saturday morning, the 24th of October, 2016. Very excited, being my younger sister's birthday. Being the eldest girl in the family, I knew I had to keep in the preparation for the party. I know I had to help in the preparation for the party that was to come up later that day. I really needed to put some things in place for the day so it could be the best day ever. My sister turned 5 that day, and the peculiar thing about that was that she had never celebrated any birthday up until then. She had been very sickly all along, and that had hindered any celebration my parents would have wanted to put up for her. Everyone was too overjoyed and would stop at nothing to make sure they do not miss that day and all the events that went with it. I said my prayers, woke the other members of the family up for the family joint prayers. Full stop. Chelsea got up with the most inviting smile ever and gave me a very big hug. I held her so tight, like I should never let go. Put in bracket here, I really wish I didn't let go after all. Bim and Tucker, my elder and younger brothers, set out to make sure that the venue got ready before the 12 o'clock slated for the birthday party. Bim made sure that the organizers set the canopy for the party at the right places and that the games joints were ready. On my own part, being my area of specialization, I made sure the decoration was like none anyone had ever seen, with the bright colors that Chelsea loved so much. When Chelsea took her bath and came out for the first time that day, she exclaimed, "Oh, Darie! Oh, this is the best decoration ever. Thank you so very much." "Oh, is this because it's my birthday? Oh, you are the best. This is so amazing." I gave her a brief hug, the second one that day, and said to her, "I'll do much more if I have to, even over and over again. As long as it is for you." That's where I stopped. So it actually happened to my cousin. We lost her that day, and that was the end. That was the end of it. That was why I said that day, it was indeed a day. Right now, some of us might want to become writers, like I said before. You want to become your generation's Chinua Achebe, your generation's Chimamanda Adichie. Yes, what you need to do is you read novels. You read novels, read wide and read really far. Be very, very broad in your reading. Don't limit yourself to, oh, it's only my literature text. No, read fictions. Read, in fact, real life stories. Read them. They would help you a great deal to become good writers, so that you don't just start writing. Remember when we did introduction that we're saying that sometimes we just skip writing. He went to school, so he came home. He came home. I woke up. I did this. No, those are simple sentences, and it's just one of the types of sentences that you can have in a paragraph. Just look at the one I read out to you now. Look at the way, and look at the exclamation. Those were the things I put in there. So if you really want to be a good story writer, you want to write narrative that will earn you like 38, like 32, yes, you have to read so wide, because that is where you get your vocabulary from. That's where you get your good register from. That's where you get to know that, okay, you don't use a particular word for a particular thing. So that's where you get to know that when it is drizzling, you don't say it is raining small. So that is where you get to know that when you don't only laugh, sometimes you can giggle. So all of those things put together would make you a very good storyteller, narrative essay writer.